So, good morning, everyone. My name is Andrés Borlone, First Secretary of the Mission of Chile to the United Nations. With my colleague, Zoe, we are going to be the moderator today. She's representative from the Ministry of Social Development and Family. And on behalf of the organizer, the Government of Chile, the International Labour Organization, and UN Women, we welcome you to this event called Caring for the Future, Redefining Development Through Care Politics. Firstly, I would like to thank our co-sponsor, the Government of Spain, the Philippines, Morocco, the Global Alliance for Care, the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, the United Nations Research Institute for Social Development, and the French Development Agency. This event aimed to bring together government, international organizations, and civil society to explore concrete strategies for placing care at the heart of the national development models and global cooperation. We strongly believe that care politics are essential for achieving inclusive and sustainable development in the future. To begin, we would like to invite the Minister of Social Development and Family of Chile, Her Excellency Javiera Torro, to deliver the opening remarks. Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, before beginning my remarks, I would like to extend, on behalf of the Government of Chile, our deepest solidarity to the government and the people of Philippines. And in the wake of the devastating impact of Typhoon Kalmegi, we are profoundly saddened by the tragic loss of life, and many people are still missing. We stand with you in this difficult time. As ministers gathered here today, we know that building effective, timely, and resilient response to emergencies such as this is central to our shared discussions, our commitment to our solidarity. Dear colleagues, friends, we gather today at a decisive moment. The global challenges we face in development and social protection remind us that it's not enough to work within existing frameworks. We need to transform them. We are living through a time of rapid change marked by uncertainty, inequality, and the weakening of the social pacts that have sustained our democracies for decades. In this scenario, strengthening social protection and development becomes an urgent task. Where protection systems are solid, there's trust, there's social cohesion, and there's hope. When the state protects, democracy is also reinforced. But strengthening social development is not only about better distributing finite resources. It is about going deeper, about recognizing that the limits of our current development models are no longer sufficient to meet the demands of our societies. We need to rethink the economy, institutions, and communities from a new perspective, the sustainability of life, and at the heart of that transformation is care. Care work, both paid and unpaid, is the silent foundation that sustains our economies, our families, and our communities. However, for decades, it has been dismissed in public policies and undervalued in traditional economic models. As a matter of fact, a recent study by the Ministry of Finance of Chile and Comunidad Mujer showed that the economic contribution of unpaid and domestic and care work represents in Chile 19.2% of the expanded GDP, making it larger than any other economic sector. I would like to extend you an invitation today. Investing in early childhood, mental health, the autonomy of older people, and support for caregivers is not an expense. It's a strategic investment. And support for caregiver is not an expense. It's a strategic investment. An investment that reduces inequalities, drives innovation, frees up the time and skills, and strengthens society with communitarian bonds. Care systems and policies are a catalyst for opportunities. They enable progress in labor markets, economic sectors, education, and health. Recognizing the invisible work of caring and the right to be cared for is a step forward in social justice. Nevertheless, we still face major challenges. Latin America, Africa, and Asia share structural realities: fragmented public system, high levels of informal employment, and an unequal distribution of domestic and care work, which is performed mainly by women. This invisible burden limits their economic autonomy, restricts their participation, and perpetuates gaps that are passed down from generation through generation. Therefore, moving towards a new organization of care based on shared responsibility among governments, the private sector, communities, and families is a fundamental step towards building truly inclusive development. The intention of this event is to demonstrate that there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to care policies. That is why today we are also presenting the document jointly prepared by the organizers, Chile, the ILO, and UN Women, entitled Caring for the Future, Redefining Development Through Care Policies, which demonstrate with evidence from Chile, Spain, the Philippines, and Morocco that these policies are deeply rooted in local realities and contexts, addressing the real urgencies and needs of societies. This event, co-organized by Chile, the ILO, and UN Women, springs from the deep conviction that the care crisis is not only a challenge, but also an opportunity. It is an opportunity to rethink the links between development, economy, and institutions, an opportunity to show that care is reflected in various policies, measures, and good practice that can be taken as examples to be applied in each local context, an opportunity to build a new social pact that puts life, dignity, and sustainability at its core. 30 years after the first social summit in Copenhagen, this second World Summit of Social Development in Doha represents an historic opportunity. States, international organizations, and civil society are meeting again to review progress, share lessons learned, and renew commitments to inclusive social development. If we are able to promote robust social protection systems and ambitious care policies, we will be taking a decisive step towards a more just, inclusive, and human development model. The time is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your valuable insight into why it is important today in the sidelines of the Second World Social Summit to discuss about that. Now we would like to introduce our second speaker for the opening remarks, the Executive Director of UN Women, Sima Bajus.
Thank you. Excellencies, esteemed partners and colleagues, I think I can still say good morning, Sabah al-Khair, to everyone. This year sees the commemoration of 30 years since both the Copenhagen Declaration on Social Development and the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. These two landmark agreements could not be more crucial, nor more independent. Both powerfully assert that social progress demands equality, dignity, and shared responsibility. As we look for practical ways to accelerate these two agendas together, few offer such clear transformative potential as investment in the care economy. By making necessary investments in closing care policy gaps, expanding care services, and creating decent care work, we could create nearly 300 million new jobs by 2035, 3/4 of which would be taken by women. We could lift millions of families out of poverty and transform lives. Ending the imbalance in care would drive improvements for women and girls in areas such as education, employment, leadership, and financial security across the course of their lives. We could generate huge social and economic returns if we unlocked the productivity of the estimated 708 million women globally who are excluded from the labor force by the burden of care. Yet, instead, we maintain a status quo that places an unfair burden on women, costing them, their families, their communities, and societies dearly. Unpaid care work still falls disproportionately on women and girls, spending over 2.5 times more hours per day on it than men. And for those women who make up 70% of the workforce, of the paid workforce, their work is too often typified by low pay, insecurity, and limited social protection. And we allow all this blindly, with care work frequently overlooked in public policy and excluded from metrics of social progress. Excellencies, it is time for a different course, as we heard and as we are continuously hearing from Latin America in particular. One, we need a different course, one that places care at the center, that recognizes it as the public good that it is, that appreciates that it is skilled, that it is essential, that it is hard, and it is as deserving of recognition as any other kind of work. We need a model of co-responsibility for care provision, where the state is acknowledged and acknowledges itself as a primary duty bearer, where investing in care is understood as the wise investment in public money it truly is, and where commitments are appropriately funded. That is why we must expand fiscal space, mobilize resources, spend what it costs, because the returns outweigh those costs many times over. That is how we realize the triple dividend of care for individuals, for communities, and also for economies. That is how we realize the benefits for poverty reduction, for social protection, for decent work, for our economies, and for the resilience of households and nations alike. Most importantly, and the resilience of women and nations alike. UN Women remains your steadfast partner in transforming care systems. That transformation may be long overdue, but it is no less energizing or exciting for it. We look forward to working with you all to make this the decade where care moves from promise to policy, from private sphere to public agenda, from aspiration to the reality of a fair, sustainable, and truly shared future where women and girls are in the middle of it, at the heart of it, for all women and girls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Director. It is now time to introduce our keynote speaker. Unfortunately, due to last-minute changes on the agenda, she is unable to join us today. However, she did not want to miss the opportunity to contribute to this event and speak about this important matter. Please look at the screen to hear from the former President of Chile, former Director General of UN Women, and former High Commissioner for Human Rights at the United Nations, Michelle Bachelet.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank the Government of Chile, the International Labour Organization, UN Women, the Global Alliance for Care, the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, CAF, as well as the Kingdom of Morocco, and the governments of Spain and the Philippines for the invitation to this important event. It is an honor to join you in this reflection on care as the foundation of our societies and of the sustainable development of the future. Care is inherent to human life. We have all been cared for. We care, or we will be cared for at some point. The sustainability of life of people, communities, and the planet depends on it. Yet, for far too long, care has been treated as a private and invisible matter, confined to the domestic sphere. This invisibility has led to overload and inequality, especially affecting women who have carried out these responsibilities without the recognition or support they deserve. This model is unjust and unsustainable. Care must become a pillar of new development models and a cornerstone of our economies, democracies, and collective well-being. Policies on care, understood from a rights-based perspective, must guarantee accessible and quality services, sufficient time and resources, and frameworks that promote equality, intergenerational solidarity, and gender equity. This is not about replacing families but supporting them, ensuring that no one has to choose between caring for loved ones or living with dignity. In the face of climate change, persistent inequalities, and the weakening of social cohesion, a paradigm shift is urgent. Building a care society is not only an ethical imperative but also a concrete strategy for sustaining life and human development. The United Nations system has taken historic steps that recognizing care as a pillar of both development and human rights, revitalizing its social dimension and placing dignity, equality, and justice at its core. Recent international resolutions, such as the proclamation of the International Day of Care and Support and the ECOSOC and ILO resolutions on care systems and decent work, reflect the new global consensus. Care is no longer a private matter, but a collective responsibility and a driver of progress. Chile has embraced this challenge through its comprehensive national care system, founded on the conviction that caring is not merely a domestic task, but a political act and an instrument of social transformation. This initiative recognizes care as a universal right and shared responsibility, ensuring that everyone can both provide and receive care under fair and dignified conditions. I have witnessed the power of care. It generates well-being, strengthens communities, reduces inequalities, empowers women, and reaffirms our shared humanity. When a country invests in care, it invests in development, social cohesion, and its own future. It is time to turn recognition into action and advance toward a new vision of progress where success is measured not only by economic growth, but by reaching human dignity. To speak of care is to speak of justice, democracy, and humanity. This gathering calls us to move from diagnosis to shared solutions, building a common roadmap where care drives cooperation, equality, and sustainable development. What we decide and do today will define the kind of society we leave for future generations.
From the distance, we thank former President Michelle Bachelet. Her words always resonate among us, and we recognize her leadership and contribution to the care agenda and the global discussion regarding social protection and inclusive development. We will now continue with the high-level panel, in which government representatives will discuss their care policies and their influence on their definition of development in their countries. We are now pleased to introduce Ana Moreno, Technical Secretary of the Global Alliance for Care, who will be moderating this panel. We also invite the panelists to take a seat, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for being here. I cannot imagine a better opening remarks that we have had to start this panel, having the voices that we have heard. But the time is limited. So first of all, I would like to obviously say thank you to the organizers, and also thank you for putting together this incredible panel to discuss the how, because we have to continue explaining why care should be at the center of the development and why care is part of this transformative vision that we have. But we also want to hear how, because things are happening. So for that, we have 4 speakers, Francisca Gallegos, Undersecretary of Social Services, Ministry of Social Development and Family of Chile, Mrs. Maria Rosa Martinez Rodriguez, Secretary of State of Social Rights of the Ministry of Social Rights, Consumer Affairs and 2030 Agenda of Spain, Ms. Lisa Grace Bersales, Undersecretary from the Commission on Population and Development of the Philippines, and His Excellency Mr. Rashidi, Secretary of State to the Ministry of Solidarity, Social Inclusion and Family, Ministry of Solidarity, Social Inclusion and Family. So thank you to the 4 of you. We have 30 minutes, and we know that we have prepared for several questions, but I think I will start with the first one. But if you want still to, bring some of the conclusions of the other, thoughts that you had preparing this session, you are much more appreciated, because what we want is to really explain to the audience, what are you doing? which things are working, which things are you seeing benefits and impact the citizens in your countries. So we will really like to hear that. Having said that, obviously, Francisca, you will be the first one speaking, and we would like to hear the role of care policies in Chile. And please, the floor is yours, 3-4 minutes, and then let's see if we have time for the second question. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anna, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to join this high-level dialogue and share the space with colleagues from different regions. I thank organizers creating this valuable opportunity to exchange experience and good practice in advanced care center development. I would also like to reinforce the idea so clearly illustrated by Ministra Javiera Toro regarding the progress in making the strengthening its national care agenda. In Chile, we understand that care is not only social necessity, it's a work and a rights. Alongside health, education, and social security, care constitutes what we call the fourth of our protection system. It sustains life itself and enables all other forms of work and participation. Without care, there is no economy, no productivity, and no human development. Building of this vision, Chile is advancing bill currently under discussion in Parliament that formally establishes the national system support and care as a state responsibility. The legislative initiative seeks to guarantee the right to care through the life course and to consolidate institutional foundation for an integrated intersectorality system that brings together health, labor, and social services under one framework. In parallel, we implement the plan action of the includes 100 aimed at promotion shared responsibility for care between the state, families, community, and private sector. At the same time, we are implementing concrete mission to recognize and redistribute unpaid care work. Through the National Caregiver Registry and the Caregiver Badge, we are identifying those who provide unpaid care, mostly women, making them visible to the public programs and social benefits. Chile is also expanding the local care support network and establishing the Community Care Center, that is a pioneer way and focus on supporting caregivers. This center offers services such as respite care, mental health support, and training opportunities. And joining these who care are also career pioneers. We know there is still too much to do, especially in promotional, cultural change, and performing how care is valued, but we are convinced that recognizing care is a social right is a decisive step toward more inclusive, egalitarian, and resilient society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Francisca. Secretary of State from the Government of Spain, Rosa Martinez. Also in Spain, what policy mechanisms have proven most effective in recognizing and redistributing unpaid care work, but also how is your government currently integrating care into social protection, development planning? So can you explain a bit more also from your government? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today to discuss this important matter. I think I'm going to kind of merge in both questions and finally let the second one for final remarks. Currently, we are reviewing and rethinking our long-term care system, which is almost 20 years old, and we have found that it is not appropriate for the expectations and not always deliver the quality service we would like to. And besides, we are facing an aging demographic shift, quite important in Spain. So we are rethinking the system in three areas. The first is how we want to care. So we are undertaking a legal reform for the system to shift to a more personalized care with less bureaucracy, more flexible, and person-centered and community-based approach. It's to say that the system adapts to people's needs and not the person to the system, how it works. And that's important. And I think this human rights approach, we don't have to lose this into sight, because finally care policies are also targeted for the people who receive the care. The second point, which is a common point in all the global north, is who's going to provide this care. We have problems to find people, women, persons who want to work here. So we are trying to see how to improve the labor conditions, how to improve the training, how to make it more accessible, more affordable, how to build a professional career for this work, and how to improve the social recognition of this work. So we have projections that say that in only 5 years we will need 260,000 more workers, that the challenge is enormous. A couple of figures that's very relevant. In Spain, 40% of the professional workers are foreign, mainly from Latin America, and around 45% of domestic workers, making a lot of an informal care job at homes, are also foreigners. So we are also looking on how to speed up how these women can have their papers, their job permission, how to make them join into the vocational training system so they can really have access to a more regularized labor rights. However, and I think that's an important thing to discuss in an international forum like this, is the international mobility for workers. How we are going this shortage of workforce we have in the global north not make a risk for the countries which are currently developing their own systems. So it's, of course, an opportunity for many women, but at the same time, we are decapitalizing these countries and how to find a way to make this migration in safe conditions, and also how they can return and bring all the learning. And I mean, that's an international thing that we need to look together. And finally, the third point, and that's common for all the countries, is, of course, funding. How we are going to fund in a sustainable work these increasing needs for caring that all the societies are having. So this is the main regarding long-term care, the things we are looking at. But I would like to just share very quick the most effective measure that we have found to redistribute unpaid work in Spain. And that is the equal and non-transferable leave for birth that was stated in 2021. That means that both mothers and fathers have 13 weeks now, 6 of them compulsory, and they have to enjoy it individually. And this reform that took place only 4 years ago, we are seeing already that there is a high use of leave by fathers. It depends on job sectors, but it still is an increasing number. It's encouraging fathers to leave, also shift the social norm and the social perception and expectation of what should be doing in raising the child, and also reduce the child penalty that mothers have, because that's something that we have everyone, and somehow it's also shape how children perceive the gender role for the future. So far we have some time statistics that show that time is more shared between men and women in childcare. So in the Spanish context, that's a legal reform that really has helped us to redistribute care job.
Thank you so much for the details and explaining how things are happening. And we are moving to another region. We have heard from a country from Latin America, from Chile. We have heard from Europe, Spain, and we are now moving to the Philippines. So I would like to give the floor to Ms. Lisa Grace Versales. Please.
Thank you very much, Anna. I would like to start with the situation of the Philippines, some data of interest. So the Philippines is experiencing demographic shift, but we are still a growing population. By the way, before I continue, I would like to thank Minister Caceres for the statement of solidarity for the Philippines as we experienced the big typhoon recently. And we are expecting another one this coming weekend. So as I've said, the Philippines is undergoing demographic shifts. We have more working age population, 14 to 65, 50 to 64, but we are still growing. So 31% of our population are still the young. These are ages below 15. But we are expected by 2030 to become an aging population with more than 7% of our population aged 65 and above. Recently, our statistics office provided information based on the labor force survey of 2024 on amount of time men and women in the Philippines allocate their day for unpaid care work and domestic work. And as expected, women spend twice more than men, but both men and women still do unpaid care and domestic work, mainly for preparing meals, child care and instruction, and caring for the house. But as I've said, women bear twice more time of that. I would like to also mention that we are concerned about the labor force participation rate of our women. As of this September 2025, our labor force survey indicated that our women participate in labor force, only 54% of them, compared to about 75% of men. However, we note that when women get employed, employment rate is almost the same as men, 96.0% for women and 96.3% for men. With actually the men having higher rate of underemployment than women, and this is because women take most of the time for unpaid care work. I would like to also report that for the Philippines, our concern is that migrant worker deployment out of our country, we are a giving country in terms of labor migration, and so we actually experience care drain because our Filipino caregivers and nurses go out of the country. So the Philippines, however, therefore, has to work on care policies. And so it has established a robust care policy framework anchored on constitutional guarantee on gender equality. We're very proud about our Magna Carta of Women, which was a law enacted in 2009 seeking constitutional guarantees of gender equality. But recently, we have this Domestic Workers Act. This was actually 2017, and the more recent one is the Caregivers Welfare Act of 2023. And these are very clear policies, laws that provide caregivers for more protection in the workplace. So these include providing them with a pension plan, time off from their caregiving work. And so this is a recognition in the Philippines. But I would also like to share the experience in my region, Asia-Pacific region, where we have a very diverse group of countries in terms of demographic situation. But we recognize that we need policies for caregiving. And so countries like Malaysia have developed their care strategic framework for 2026 to 2030, recognizing care as essential economic infrastructure and also changing gender norms in our region. UN Women and UNDP lead initiatives such as Transform Care Investment Initiative Asia Pacific that aims to shift discriminatory attitudes about care work through policy reform and advocacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And we will now travel again. And in this case, we would like to hear the statement from the Kingdom of Morocco, delivered by His Excellency Mr. El Rashidi. Please, your floor is yours.
يسعدني أن أتقدم بخالص عبارة الشكر لفخامة السيدة ميشيل باتشلي الرئيسة السابقة لجمهورية تشيلي، وكذلك إلى السيدة مسيرة الجلسة أنا مورينو الكاتبة التقنية للتحالف العالمي للرعاية، وإلى السيدة فرانسيسكا غاييغوس وكيلة وزارة الخدمات الاجتماعية ووزارة التنمية الاجتماعية والأسرة في تشيلي، وكذلك إلى السيدة ماريا روثا مارتينيز رودريغيز وزيرة الدولة لشؤون الحقوق الاجتماعية بوزارة الحقوق الاجتماعية وشؤون المستهلك بإسبانيا، والشكر كذلك إلى ممثلة حكومة الفلبين وإلى كافة المنظمين.
It is my pleasure to extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to Her Excellency Mrs. Michelle Bachelet, former President of the Republic of Chile and former Executive Director of UN Women and former High Commissioner for Human Rights for the United Nations. Her Excellency Ms. Javiera Toro, Minister of Social Development and Family of the Republic of Chile. Mrs. Sima Bahous, Executive Director of UN Women, and Her Excellency Mrs. Maria Rosa Martinez Rodriguez, State Minister for Social Rights of the Ministry of Social Rights, Consumer Affairs, and the 2030 Agenda of the Kingdom of Spain, and all the esteemed co-organizers and panelists of this event.
في البداية أود أن أؤكد على أن اقتصاد الرعاية في المغرب يكتسي أهمية حاسمة لتعزيز التنمية لعدة اعتبارات أساسية أهمها: أولاً تسارع وتيرة الدولة الاجتماعية، فبفضل الورش الذي أطلقه المغرب بتوجيه من صاحب الجلالة الملك محمد السادس نصره الله، تجاوز عدد المواطنين المغاربة المستفيدين من الحماية ومن التأمين الطبي 22 مليون مواطن ومواطنة. وفيما يتعلق بالدعم المباشر، تفتخر المملكة بتمكين أزيد من 4 مليون أسرة من الدعم المباشر بفضل سياسة الاستهداف الفعالة والتي لعبت فيها التكنولوجيا دورا مهما، بالإضافة إلى تعميم التعويضات العائلية بفائدة حوالي 7 ملايين طفل في سن التمدرس، وتوسيع قاعدة الانخراط في نظام التقاعد من خلال إدماج 5 ملايين مغربي من الساكنة النشيطة التي لا تتوفر على حق التقاعد، وتعميم الاستفادة من التعويض عن فقدان الشغل بالنسبة لكل شخص يتوفر على شغل قار.
First, I would like to emphasize that the care economy in today's Morocco plays a critical role in promoting development due to several major concurrent changes, the most important of which are: firstly, the acceleration of the social state. Thanks to the initiatives launched under the guidance of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, may God assist him, the number of Moroccan citizens benefiting from medical coverage has exceeded 22 million. Regarding direct support, Morocco is proud to provide direct assistance to more than 4 million households through an effective targeting policy, in which technology has played an important role. In addition, family allowances have been extended to approximately 7 million school-aged children. The pension system has been expanded to include 5 million active individuals previously without retirement rights, and unemployment benefits have been generalized for all individuals with regular employment.
ثانياً تزايد الشيخوخة الديمغرافية، فعلى الرغم من أن 43% من السكان في المغرب تقل أعمارهم عن 25 سنة، إلا أن هذه الساكنة بدأت في التقدم في السن، وبحلول عام 2050 سيشكل كبار السن أكثر من 23% من السكان، ويبلغ متوسط عدد أطفال الآن لكل أسرة حوالي طفلان فقط لكل أسرة، مقارنة مع 7 أطفال في سنوات الستينات. وبالتالي فكبار السن لديهم عدد أقل من الأطفال القادرين على رعايتهم الآن، وهذا سيطرح علينا تحديات في المستقبل، خصوصا أن معدل الخصوبة اليوم لا يتجاوز 1.9%.
Secondly, the increase in demographic aging. Although 43% of Morocco's population is under 25 years of age, this population is beginning to age. By 2050, older adults will represent more than 23% of the population. The average number of children per household is now 2.3, compared to 7 children in the 1960s. Consequently, older adults have fewer children able to care for them, and this number is expected to decline further in the future, with a fertility rate not exceeding 2.1.
ثالثا الحاجة الملحة لخلق فرص الشغل، ويتعلق الأمر هنا بأولوية وطنية خاصة بالنسبة للنساء والشباب. ورابعا الحاجة كذلك الملحة لتبني أساليب عمل جديدة تراعي التحديات التي أفرزتها مختلف الأزمات، ويتولد الشعور بهذه الحاجة على حد سواء لدى كل العاملات والعاملين الاجتماعيين وكذا المسؤولين السياسيين.
Thirdly, the urgent need to create employment opportunities. This is a national priority, especially for women and youth. Fourthly, the urgent need to adopt new work methods and flexible approaches. This need has emerged in a context of multiple crises and is felt both by workers and policymakers alike.
هذه التغيرات المجتمعية وغيرها تضع اقتصاد الرعاية كحل من حلول التنمية الاقتصادية في بلادنا، وتمهد لاعتماد بلدنا لاستراتيجية خاصة باقتصاد الرعاية تدعم المكتسبات وتوفر مقاربات وحلول جديدة.
These societal changes, among others, position the care economy as a solution for economic development in the country and pave the way for Morocco to adopt a dedicated care economy strategy that both safeguards existing achievements and provides new approaches and solutions.
وعليه نعتبر أن السياسات الأكثر فعالية في هذا المجال يجب أن تركز على ما يلي: أولاً الاعتراف القانوني بالعمل غير المأجور للرعاية ومنحه لمكانة مناسبة ضمن الأطر التشريعية الوطنية. ثانياً دعم مقدمي الرعاية عبر برامج الحماية الاجتماعية والخدمات والتحفيزات الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والاعتراف والإشهاد، وهي عملية نقوم بها في المغرب في إطار تفعيل قانون العاملين الاجتماعيين وما يرافقه من مراسيم وآليات تنظيمية لتوفير شروط العمل لائق لكافة المهنيين في المجال. وثالثاً دمج خدمات الرعاية ضمن برامج التنمية والحماية الاجتماعية لتصبح جزءاً أساسياً من الاقتصاد الوطني وليس مجرداً عبء على الأسرة.
Accordingly, we consider that the most effective policies in this area should focus on: 1. Legal recognition of unpaid care work, granting it appropriate status within national legislative frameworks. Second, supporting caregivers through social protection programs, services, economic and societal and social incentives, recognition and certification, a process being implemented in Morocco through the activation of the social workers law and its accompanying decrees and regulatory mechanisms, ensuring decent working conditions for all professionals in the field. And third, integrating care services into development and social protection programs, making them a fundamental part of the national economy rather than merely a burden on families.
وفي الأخير إننا نعتقد أن الاستثمار في اقتصاد الرعاية لا يقتصر على تحسين ظروف الأسر، بل يسهم أيضا في خلق فرص عمل خاصة للشباب والنساء وتعزيز الاستقرار الأسري وزيادة فعالية برامج الحماية الاجتماعية الوطنية بما يحقق التنمية المستدامة والعدالة المجالية.
Finally, we believe that investing in the care economy not only improves family conditions but also creates employment opportunities, particularly for youth and women, strengthens family stability and increases the effectiveness of national social protection programs, thereby achieving sustainable development and social justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the examples and the commitments and the political will behind of all what you are doing. We don't have much time, but I would like perhaps quickly to move also to the global cooperation, no? Because the how, it's connected to what is happening at the national level and at the local level, obviously, and the local and national experiences. But perhaps to talk about also the challenging of financing, of the global cooperations, I would really like to hear from your side at least some ideas about how to advance in the how at that level. And Francisca, I will start with you and we will follow the same order. just to be brief, because I know that there are other interventions after our panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. International cooperation has played a decisive role in advancing care center development. Latin America offers a remarkable example of collective progress, where countries such as Uruguay, Colombia, Costa Rica, and Brazil, among others, has developed innovative models of recognizing care as social and economic priority. And I think that these events, we have a very, very good consensus. Addressing the care crisis is not only about expanding service, but about rethinking how and how our society organizes development and well-being. Platforms like the Second World Summit of Social Development are crucial, deepening the cooperation to share lessons, align efforts, and build a more inclusive and sustainable global agenda where care becomes a core principle of social protection and human development.
Thank you so much. Secretary of State, Rosa.
Well, Spanish commitment with international cooperation with gender approach is very clear. Both equality and care are at the core of the cooperation in the framework of the feminist cooperation strategy. And it's clear to me that there is a lot of work to do in technical cooperation, because all the countries have to deliver policy on the three items I mentioned before. The model of care, the work, and the budget, the funding. So the role, learning from mistakes, learning from what have not worked in other countries, learning for new approaches that many countries are setting up from scratch the care system. I think that is fundamental. In this sense, our ministry is setting up a project, Interconecta, for Latin America, which is aiming to set up exchange and dialogue spaces based on social innovation pilot project we have led in Spain the last 2 years, and it's aimed to share our experience and new approaches, new ways of deliver care, so that can be this kind of spaces can be really the way of putting in common. And I said we have a lot of learn and discuss together in international mobility of workers, and of course funding, but it's really a core question on what are our priorities, our society, and indeed, if we want to make care as a part of social protection, it needs to have at least the same budget or priority in budget planning that has social protection or social services, health, education. And so far, I think in most of the country, care system doesn't have this consideration.
Thank you so much. Lisa, please, and the secretary.
Thank you very much, Anna. Well, in the Philippines, I have mentioned a number of laws. We believe that it's very important to have these policies, laws that will first, be our foundation for the work that we do. But the next step really is showing how to implement, how to actualize these laws. And so this is where international cooperation comes in, and platforms like the summit now are platforms for us to hear from other countries on how we can translate our laws into actual work. May I share in particular that we are now crafting in the Philippines National Care Economy Policy Framework, which is developed by our Philippine Commission on Women, but with international cooperation being helped by Oxfam and UN Women. And so for us, these partnerships, this helped technical cooperation showing actual experiences are very important to us. So yes, and we emphasize South-South cooperation as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And we really appreciate His Excellency and all of you. For us, this moment is really a multilateral advocacy moment. So to have, this event, thank you obviously to the organizers, the government of Chile, ILO, UN Women, to everyone, because this is also part of the international cooperation, is the international advocacy, and we really appreciate it. I don't know if His Excellency, but if not, thank you so much. I will pass the floor to the colleagues that are going to introduce other speakers. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So following the program, we would like to have some comments from you. And we ask that each of these comments lasts no longer than 2 minutes. And we will start with the intervention from the Employer Confederation of Philippines, Director General Mr. Jose Ronald Moya. We would like to invite you to address your comment from here, to the podium. Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. In a developing economy like the Philippines, the care economy presents both significant challenges and emerging opportunities. One of our major challenges lies in the recognition and redistribution of unpaid care work, which has traditionally fallen heavily on women. This continues to limit their participation in the formal labor force. Many workplaces still lack child care facilities, often due to budget constraints. And even where such facilities exist, they are frequently underutilized because parents find it difficult to bring their children to where their workplaces are located. Beyond these interventions, there remain larger systemic issues such as gaps in infrastructure, policy coherence, and social protection. The lack of accessible, affordable child care and elder care services discourages many from entering or staying in employment, where limited social protection for care workers further compounds the challenge. For employers, these care-related barriers have real business implications. They affect productivity, attendance, and employee retention. It is for this reason that we in the Employers Confederation of the Philippines have been working closely with the government and workers to promote family-responsive workforce policies, flexible work arrangements, shared parental responsibilities, and inclusive care programs. At the same time, we recognize that investing in the care economy can generate quality jobs, particularly for women and youth, while strengthening the foundation for a more resilient labor market. Employers see potential partnerships through public-private cooperation in professionalizing care work, advocating for care entrepreneurship, promoting skills development, and establishing standards that value care work as productive economic activity. At the international level, platforms such as the World Summit for Social Development can help countries like ours exchange good practices and access financing for care infrastructure and training. Ultimately, we believe that these facilities are not one-size-fits-all solution. Addressing the care deficit requires a well-designed care policy framework anchored on tripartite dialogue and responsible business conduct to transform the care economy from a cost center into a driver of inclusive and sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jose Roland, for your important message, and particularly the need for social coherence and in our public policies. We would like to continue with the intervention from United Nations Research Institute for Social Development, Executive Director, Ms. Magdalena Sepúlveda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We would like to thank the organizers for this event, and it is an honor to sponsor this session. Care is the backbone of our societies and the cornerstone of achieving gender equality and inclusive development. The Doha Declaration and the outcome document of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, the Sevilla Commitment, both underscore that care is a public good and a strategic investment. Now we need to move to translating this commitment into action. To this end, attention must be paid to how to finance the care systems. In this regard, we would like to propose that the Compromiso de Sevilla and the Doha Declaration should be seen as complementary documents that function together. The Doha Declaration sets the objectives, in this case, expanding care system, while the Sevilla Compromise outlined a roadmap to reach this goal. Key elements of this roadmap are progressive taxation, debt restructuring, international cooperation, and innovative financing. As we depart from Doha, let's remember that these commitments must be implemented. States must ensure that they translate this into effective policies, and civil society organizations must hold government accountable. There would be no sustainable development without putting care at the center of policymaking. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Magdalena, for your valuable insight, inviting us today to integrate Doha Declaration with the Compromiso de Sevilla. Now it is time to introduce Ms. Julie Gonnet, Deputy Head of the Social Link of Division of the French Agency of Development. Julie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So first, let me thank warmly the government of Chile, ILO, UN Women, for convening this very useful and insightful panel and very inspiring panelists. So thank you very much. We very much share much of what has been said this morning. Wanted to quickly share briefly what we are doing at the French Development Agency. Just as a reminder, IFD Group is the French Bilateral Development Bank, and we intervene in 160 countries, providing loans and grants. We have 12 billion of euro investment each year. And reducing inequality and promotion of inclusion and advancing gender equality is really at the center of our strategy and mandate. We have 50% of programs that significantly contribute to inequality reduction and more than 60% to gender equality. This is very much aligned with our newly renewed feminist French diplomacy. And we also recognize that care is really a cornerstone of social cohesion and human dignity. So investing in care, I think it was really well explained, it generates a triple dividend: well-being, job creation, and empowering women. So addressing this social challenge through the lens of care requires a holistic, intersectional, cross-sectoral, and rooted in human and women's rights approach, connecting economic, social, and territorial dimensions. So as a development bank, that is exactly the offer of service we really try to develop and provide to our partner countries with a wide range of financial tools adapted to demand context. We can provide loans to local authorities and the private sectors. We also provide budget support and technical assistance to government and sovereign loans and grants to implement specific programs. We really answer to the specific needs of partner countries to support sustainable care systems. We have many examples we can share working at local and national levels. For example, with the Kingdom of Morocco, Colombia, Mexico, Jordan, or French Caribbean. all of these countries develop very innovative and interesting care systems. For example, in Colombia, we support the Manzanas de Cuidado, which is a very innovative and highly effective care system program. And we also work with the Kingdom of Morocco, supporting very innovative and transformative care systems. All of these examples really showcase that investing in care is not a matter of rights, but also an economic choice and a smart investment. So we are very much committed to work alongside governments, civil society, and international partners, including, of course, ILO and UN Women. We really believe that we can turn the vision of care-centered development into a reality with collective mobilization, improved funding, and more synergies. Within the Financing Commons Summit, which is a coalition of 530 development banks, multilateral, regional, national development banks, we really believe that there is a real potential to all together to work towards redirecting financial flows towards the social agenda and place care economy at the center of this specific agenda. Thank you very much.
Merci, Madame Gonnet, for your important message and to remind us for the role of care in the social cohesion. Now we would like to close this panel, and we thank the panelists and the moderator. We are going to continue with the agenda.
Thank you all for your interventions. We are now closing this section from the event, and we thank again our panelists for their contribution. One of the main purposes of this event was to provide practical solutions to the global development challenges we face. We did not want to simply share our experiences. We wanted to provide concrete tools to ignite global and regional discussions about the importance of care politics in promoting economic inclusiveness and growth and fostering intergenerational and shared responsibility between communities, the private sector, and the state. At your seats, you have this report produced by the organizers of this event, which compiles the national experiences of governments that presented at the high-level panel, Chile, Spain, Morocco, and the Philippines, and as well contributions from the Global Alliance for Care. This report concludes that care policies are not just a way of dealing with a social issue, but is a strategic investment for governments, one that sustains families, strengthens economies, and is essential to gender equality and sustainable development. Through case studies from Chile, Morocco, the Philippines, and Spain, this document shows how countries are building national care systems that redistribute responsibilities, professionalize care work, and guarantee support for both caregivers and care recipients. It redefines care as a pillar of democracy, equality, and sustainability. We invite you to read it, to share it, as a practical tool for thinking development through care politics. Printed copies are available in here at the table and at your seats. And you can also find it online versions at the ILO and the UN Women and the Ministry of Social Development websites. And also you can scan the QR codes to access to the online document. Now for the closing remarks, we give the floor to the International Labour Organization's Director General for External and Corporate Relations, Laura Thompson. Please, Laura.
Thank you very much, and hello everybody. Minister, thanks for the invitation. Thanks also to Spain, Morocco, the Philippines, and many others that have championed this agenda. I know I have a limited time, so I will cut short my closing remarks. Just to say that I think that this discussion has reinforced a simple but very profound truth at the heart of the ILO's mandate, that there cannot be social justice and no social development without decent work. And we have here with us
the creator of the decent work concept, Mr. Juan Somavia. Happy to be here with you. And certainly that there is no decent work without gender equality. Care work, both paid and unpaid, is essential to all other work and must be at the center of all our commitments as affirmed in the ILO resolution concerning decent work and care economy. The minister told us a very nice sentence today: silence is the silent foundation that sustains our economies. Thank you for that. The way we organize and value care in our homes and our workplaces, communities, and economies will determine certainly the quality of our social development for generations to come. Hence, care politics matters, and the governance of the care systems must be understood as a political project to foster social and economic development. Investing in coherent, integrated care policies and systems is an opportunity to promote more equal, more inclusive, and sustainable societies. The economic argument is there. Care economy creates jobs and strengthens economies. According to the ILO macro simulations, closing care economy gaps could create up to 299 million jobs by 2035 and generate a return of US $3.376 million in global GDP for every dollar that is invested. Today's conversation, I think, has reminded us of redefining development through care politics. Means designing and implementing integrated and coherent policies and systems. And these have to have, and I will make the 5 points that I took from the discussion, address the under-evaluation of care economy, of care work, and the unequal gender distribution of pay. The second one, I would say, realize decent work and gender equality, grounded in international labor standards and social dialogue. This should ensure decent work for all care workers, paid and unpaid, formal and informal, with adequate wages, equal paid for equal work, social protection, dignity and safe at work, and voice and representation. One thing that was very much mentioned is the aging of societies and the role that labor migration is going to have on that, and the protection that has to have. And it was mentioned by basically every single panelist. So I think that's an element that is very important. Investing in high quality, affordable, and accessible care services. The Secretary of State of Spain explained to us how they are doing this, including, those that are in the informal economy is going to be quite important. Ensure disability and inclusion, that was not mentioned, but I think it is important to mention it. Non-discrimination, occupational health, safety and health, and adequate minimum wages is something that for us in ILO is extremely important. So to conclude, building a care economy that works for all is an imperative for our shared future. A future where every worker, every family, every business, and every community can thrive. Let us act now to make that future real. Thank you very much. And I think I made it.
Thank you so much, Director General. When we first thought of this event, we wanted to position care at the center of the discussion for development solutions. We firmly believe care politics are the cornerstone to improve prosperity, inclusiveness, economic growth, and gender equity. Dear colleagues, closing this event, we would like to reiterate on behalf of the Government of Chile, the International Labour Organization, and UN Women our sincere appreciation to each and every one of you who attended this event and everyone who is following us from UNTV. Remember, you can get a copy of the report here in person or via the organizers' websites or the QR code. Have a good day. Thank you.